hostages. I want to bring in Eylon Levy, a spokesperson for the Israeli government. Thank you for joining me, sir. Can you confirm all 13 of the Israeli hostages are now back in Israel?
The first batch of hostages, thank God, have been released from Hamas's hell dungeons, are in the hands of Israeli special forces. They've received preliminary medical attention and they're now en route to hospitals where they will be reunited with their families, or rather, should I say, what's left of their families. Many of them, of course, their families were murdered on October 7th. Some are being separated from relatives, male relatives who are still stuck inside the Gaza Strip. Definitely a fantastic first step, incredibly moving for Israeli society. But let's remember, that still leaves 215 hostages inside the Gaza Strip. And none of us here are free until all of them are free. We are committed to that pledge. There will be no one left behind.
You said that they have undergone this initial medical assessment. What have you gleaned from the condition of some of these hostages? How are they doing?
We're not speaking publicly about their medical situation. This is a sensitive and ongoing situation. But let's remember, these people, these women and these children were brutally abducted on October 7th by the terrorists who burned, beheaded, mutilated, tortured, and raped these people's relatives and neighbors in those kibbutzim in southern Israel. And since then, they have been held in the dark and their families have been kept in the dark. Though we're not given any access to the Red Cross, we had no information about their condition, no information about who was alive and who might be dead. So it's important that they get that medical attention. We will, of course, be looking for signs of how they may have been abused by Hamas while they were in captivity, and hope to begin a process of rehabilitation. You know, these are little children. We don't know. Have they seen sunlight in the last 50 days? Were they fed properly? Have they come out malnourished? I don't want to speculate about how awfully they may have been treated, but we're all very anxious to make sure that they are safe and begin a long process of physical and psychological rehabilitation. Let's remember, while many of them have lost family who were murdered on October 7th, and they still have family in the Gaza Strip as hostages of Hamas.
Were they able to call their families yet? I know that was going to be something that Israel was trying to have happen early on, as soon as they were with these Israeli special forces. Do you know if that's happened yet?
I understand the initial plan was that they would be given mobile phones and allowed to contact their families, but they're being transported now to central Israel by soldiers who have been given special sensitivity training to make sure that they can deal with these children who are completely traumatized. You know, our soldiers have been told not just to pick up the children, to ask them, is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay if I hold you? Is it okay if I carry you? Because they have been into the bowels of hell and back in the last 50 days. And hopefully we'll be able to get them the care they need and give them the first hugs of whole and safe family inside Israel. And then we can work to get everyone else out and make sure there is no one left behind. We'll bring back everyone, the men, the women, the elderly, the young, the soldiers, and the civilians.
We've been watching these videos and we've seen what we believe are these hostages. We saw a young girl. We saw two elderly women. Do you have an idea of the age range of these hostages that are the first to be released today?
We've seen that the victims' families have put out a list. We haven't officially confirmed that, but on that list is a little girl as young as 2, who the victims' families are saying were released together with her 4-year-old sister and mother, and elderly people, women in their mid-80s who are suffering with very serious medical conditions and abducted into the Gaza Strip without their medication. The hostages Hamas has been holding are some of the most vulnerable people in Israeli society who have been held in the most inhumane conditions for nearly 50 days now. And we're hoping and praying for their health, and we hope that they're going to be able to recover, having been through an inhumane trauma that nobody should ever have to endure.
So just to confirm, because there was a question of whether or not that was the little girl's mother, you say you believe it was a mother, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old from one family that is part of this group of 13?
The state of Israel has not yet published a definitive list of the hostages who have been released, but I've seen that the hostages' families have already begun to speak and identify them, and let's just wait a little bit longer until we can get official confirmation on that.
What was the Prime Minister's reaction, the wartime cabinet's reaction to seeing this deal that they signed off on actually come to fruition today, based on largely how we believe and officials had expected it to go?
Look, the deal was not easy. It's never easy to release prisoners from jails who have been convicted of violent offenses. And the prisoners we are going to be releasing from Israeli jails, many of them have been convicted of attempted murder, of stabbing people, of shooting people. It's never easy to do that, but it's a price that we're paying because we will not abandon our children in the hands of the pedophile rapists of Hamas. Of course, we're happy to have those children home. We understand that this is only the first stage, because as we get those 13 Israelis and 12 foreign nationals out of the Gaza Strip, that still leaves 215 people inside the Gaza Strip. Their hell, their nightmare continues, and we're determined to bring everyone back and proceed with caution and continue to apply pressure on Hamas. It was Israel's military pressure that brought Hamas to release those little children. It didn't suddenly wake up in the morning and realize it was evil to hold a 2-year-old child in captivity. It was Israeli military pressure, and we're going to continue putting that pressure on Hamas until we bring everyone back and make sure there is no one left behind.
Does the way today went give Israeli officials hope that the rest of this process, the rest of the release of these other 37 hostages, will go smoothly?
We would definitely like to see the process of releasing those hostages from captivity continue. We're still in very early stages of what is happening today, but we are cautiously optimistic. The plan at the moment is to get the first 50 hostages out over the space of 4 days, women and children, in exchange for a 4-day hostage release pause. At that point, the offer is that for every 10 additional hostages Hamas releases, we will offer another 1-day pause in the fighting. Eventually, we will return. This war has to end with the end of Hamas. We will not leave in power the terror organization, the sick monsters that abducted these children in the first place. But we are hopeful that we can get as many hostages out as possible. And we've put in place the list of Palestinian prisoners to be released as part of that deal to get as many as 100 out in the next few days.
Eylon Levy, a spokesperson for the Israeli government, thank you for joining us so quickly with this breaking news.
Let's all pray for good news. Thank you.
And John, if